Hello, Arcs. I'm Anamana, and this is XingKazma, and you're listening to Oracle Fleet Podcast, episode 19, your weekly podcast for PS2 news information, specifically for global servers, although we do have some people on that do play the Japanese servers today, especially Sharpie, a variety streamer who specializes in the fighting game community, commentary, as well as being a known PS2 player themselves. How you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. My name is DaPurpleSharpie. I go by Sharpie. I am very infamous in the fighting game community, specifically Skullgirls and Dragon Ball Fighters, as well as them fighting herds. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me, everybody.
Not a problem. Good to have you on. And also Remalytics, an up-and-coming streamer in the community who does a lot of fashion for PSO2, especially fashion shows on, I believe, Ship 1. How are you doing today?
Excellent, Anamana. Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. It's an honor to be here with all of you, especially with being a fresh streamer. And I go by Remalytics on all platforms, and I really just want to spread positive vibes and really promote the fashion in the game because it's so much fun.
Absolutely. Good to have you both on. We'll get started right into it with some questions and answers. We'll start with Sharpie. When did you start with the Phantasy Star series? Was it like the old school RPGs online or two or?
My very first Phantasy Star Online game was actually PSO2 back in August of 2014 was when I made my very first account. I had been playing a couple of other fighting games at the time, and a couple of players had recommended, or they were just basically streaming the game inside of Skype. And I was really entranced by the game and the way it looked. And so I absolutely had to play. And I just fell in love with the mechanics. I really, really enjoy the combo system. Perfect attacks, I'm sorry, just attacks are probably perfect attack, just attacks, whatever. They're probably one of my favorite mechanics inside of any game ever. And honestly, I've been playing a lot of MMORPGs before that when I was much younger, but this was nothing like any of them. This was a completely different RPG game that had a lot of customization, had a lot of personalization, and I just really enjoyed specifically the gameplay aspect that allows you to do anything when you were fighting someone. That was honestly one of my favorite things about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, a lot of people have been saying, I know King could probably bounce off this, but Luster is pretty close to how maybe if PS2 was to convert to a fighting game would maybe play.
I agree. I completely agree. I think that Fighter, Luster are both very, very combo heavy classes that require you to have a lot of timing on deck. I personally was a Hunter and Tehu and Etoile main when I played. Well, I still play, but I primarily play Etoile now, Wand Etoile. And I have to say that the combo system is just so fantastic with a lot of these classes, the way that it really incentivizes you to kind of play very well mechanically, which I appreciate inside of any RPG. But them doing it like this in an MMO-esque way without being an MMO felt really, really refreshing to me.
Yep, absolutely. And Remalytics, what about you? When did you start with PSO?
So believe it or not, I started just last year when it was released on Xbox for everybody, back in about April or May. So this is actually my first Phantasy Star series game, and I'm really loving it. I'm used to MMOs like Final Fantasy and World of Warcraft. Done a lot of raiding there, Phashion there, and when I found this kind of by happenstance one day, I fell in love with it immediately. Like in combat, I haven't seen something like this since Terra, and the way that they handle it, especially with Force and the mage system, with text, it's just, to me, I just fell in love immediately. In an hour, I was like, this is the best MMO I've ever played.
Yeah, it's almost like as a flowchart, especially for text, with being able to, and New Genesis is going to make it even more so with charged and uncharged and kind of min-maxing your damage that way, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Right now, currently, Force struggles in a lot of content unless you run certain subs like Phantom or Etoile. I usually run Tekker sub because I just love the versatility and the ability to use really strong compounds and burst. But because of that, it makes solo content kind of difficult at times. But in New Genesis, it was like a breath of fresh air. The multiple combos with uncharged text kind of build up like El Barta, which really give you some zest at the end. And elemental damage and breaking is important for bosses. So I think that moving forward, Force is going to see quality of life that it just hasn't experienced before.
Yep, absolutely, I agree, especially with NGS.
Oh yeah, with those. Oh, sorry. What's up?
I was just gonna ask you. Yeah, keep going.
Oh, I was just gonna say, especially with the new elemental weaknesses that we can exploit by using certain magic or tech. on enemies and then opening up new weak spots, like with the giant toad. I can't remember. I'm going to call it a toad. It's like a toad or frog, but the belly is really solid. But when you hit it with ice ability, it then crackles and then you can break it open and then boom, there's a new weak spot. That way you don't have to go around that tiny weak spot in the back. I think that's going to be really useful. You know, it's just kind of adding on to what Ren was talking about and then bringing that into New Genesis. Just another useful piece that is going to make tech classes really prosper in New Genesis.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to definitely be talking later on in the podcast as well about New Genesis, because there's a lot to talk about with our experiences and even questions about what we can expect, kind of thing. As for classes, so Ram, you were mentioning Force. Is that your main class?
Yeah, absolutely. I have about 1,000 plus hours on Force alone. I really enjoy the class. Mages have always been my thing, and the fact that the Phantasy Star series takes that to a whole new level and introduces it as techs and the variable abilities like that. Yeah, so yeah, that's my main. I do play a little bit of other classes. The Scions, for me, I really enjoy them, but I'm not the best at them. So I usually find myself on Force or Gunner. Gunner really gets that high speed, like, it really lives up to like the cowboy zest, and I love it because I can pull out the guns and like just pretend like, you know, I'm a wild gunslinging girl going crazy, and it's fun.
Yeah.
And then Force is like my go-to because I can support everyone. Maybe not as strong as a attacker, but I can also pull out a lot of damage when needed, especially in AoE situations. So yeah, totally about Force.
Yeah, that's what I play at the moment. I actually went from like, I've always been a hunter through PSO games, but with this I've moved to like, I was a summoner for a while, and then I felt it was a little bit too basic. I also wasn't playing at a top level, so I moved to Force, and then I was Phantom Force for a while, and now I'm moving over to Airtoile, so it's recoding my brain with timings and stuff. But what about you, Sharpie? You were saying before, hunter, fighter, techer.
Yeah, so I originally ran Hunter Fighter back when I first started playing, because like back when, you know, 13 stars were the only thing in the game with Magatsu, like everybody was playing Bouncer, and I knew I wasn't a Bouncer player. So I was like Hunter, 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 Hunter. And even before Magatsu, I was always Hunter, 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 Hunter.
Yep.
It wasn't until I started realizing, this was before Xanverse was nerfed, but I didn't realize how much damage output Tekker really put out. I was playing a couple of other games competitively at the moment, but I really fell into the support role, specifically in League of Legends, and I started moving towards that more in my gameplay in general. So when I was playing PSO2, I started running these MPAs with my team, and I would want to support their damage instead of specifically focus on my own. And the Tekker Tehu really allowed me to do that. I basically wanted to be a tank before tanks were allowed in the game. I was actually, I want to say one of the only people on the ship that I played on that decided to make a pure resistance build. It cost me like a little bit under 100 mil to build and everything, but I made a pure resistance Tehu build with all of my units. It cost me a lot of money.
Yep.
And then, you know, expert mode came out. I couldn't clear it because you have to do damage in PSO2. And so I didn't really have anything for that. And I came back after a short break of being kind of frustrated with the game because Tehu didn't really do the damage I was looking after the Xanverse nerf. Etoile brought me back into the game because it was a very tanky class. It had invuln frames that were very free, and the most important thing was that it allowed me to use Wand, which is always a weapon that I've been very, very, very fond of. Just because you literally get to smack them. Like, who doesn't want to smack somebody with a wand, you know? The hitbox is so forgiving. The timing of it's really, really nice, and it's faster than Sword, though it doesn't have as long of a reach as a Partisan, which wasn't a big deal breaker for me because I just had to be a little bit closer, which is a lot easier with Etoile if you manage the invuln timing and you manage a lot of the spacing, which I appreciate as a fighting game player. So it was really enjoyable to me when Etoile came out, and that was when I really, really started sinking time into the game. So that's kind of my timeline in history with it. I would say that right now I'm more of just maining anything that allows me to play Wand, and the best class for Wand right now I believe is Etoile. Yeah.
Actually, funny to say about the tank stuff. We had a recent Pusoni Komi video that went over New Genesis, and on the map, it looks like there may be dungeons. So I'm hoping that they bring in the trinity of, you know, heals, tanks, and damage. Because, I don't know, that's the thing is like, people, if you try to shoehorn everyone into damage, where's the variety, right? So
I felt like a really big issue specifically inside of the PSO2 meta as it was developed prior to global coming out was that a lot of people felt that you only needed one techer inside of a party, which was true. And even then that techer was required to do damage, which I didn't dislike because as someone who kind of considers themselves a really awesome team player but also wants to do solo party damage, I totally get that. And mechanically it makes sense to me. But when you think about the fact that techer isn't even offered inside of the tutorial, which is, as an indicator, techer inherently doesn't do that much damage until you craft text for it, until you get a better play style, until you start to understand the game better, then it makes a little bit more sense.
Mhm.
And I will be honest, I was somewhat disheartened when the Xanverse nerf came into the game, but I completely understand why. I completely understand why. And in my defense, as the person who only played techer and put all their points in the win tree, I felt like it was a personal attack against me at the time. But I understand why they do it now. It makes total sense to me. It felt personal at the time, you know, because I was enjoying my 50% before that damage nerf. I was enjoying it, okay? It was nice. It's nothing like the 20% now. But I am appreciating that because on global, what you're seeing now is players start to realize, okay, there's only so much damage I can put out. We have to have a techer. We need that Xanverse. That 20% is important. And I feel like we never would have gotten there if Xanverse was just 50% and people weren't recognizing that that damage was needed from techers prior to that nerf. So I completely understand and appreciate the idea now. It was very hard for me when it first came out as a person who played techer.
Yeah.
And especially with nowadays, if you, because I know one of the big plans about with HTPD is to have multiple sources of Xanverse, and even though we're taking away that 50% from one person, if the entire MPA themselves are attacking inside of that Xanverse, if you have a luster, make sure you stay next to your luster. If you have a Tector, make sure you stay around that Tector, at least within like the AoE, of course. Then you're going to be able to get that Xanverse off. You and your team can work together and kind of make up for that 50% that's not there, depending on how how the rotation's going. So I felt that, like, I do feel like what you're saying is true. Like, if it was just a 1-person MPA or maybe like a 4-person MPA, give them the 50% back. But in an 8-person MPA, you can leave it at where it's at.
You do not need it in 8-person. I would even say in 6-person situations, honestly, it's not needed.
Yeah, like the 50%.
Yeah,
crazy.
my biggest kind of frustration right now with techer is that they have wind in their tree, but wind isn't really a big amplifier for any good spells for techer besides Xanverse. Like, that's the only wind spell that you're seeing. You can craft a couple of other ones, like you can craft a Xan and make it pretty fast, give it Mirage and go to town on Luther, you know, but you're not really using it for anything else. It's not a very good spell when you look at the other offensive spell options that you have that are just faster, less PP, you know, like it's all better, like without contest. And Xanverse is really the only wind spell that you would even use the wind mastery for nowadays, unless you're running like a very specific Tehu build where you're going for that wind mastery on your weapon. That's the only time I could see it worth. But that nerf kind of left a lot of the wind tree and techer obsolete, which is that's like, that was my biggest frustration with it, is that with the removal of that buff, it kind of became more of a, oh man, you know, what am I gonna put my points in now for techer? Well, I guess I just have 15 points I don't need to use anymore, you know? It's kind of a weird balance. And I'm really excited for New Genesis because they are going to rework a lot of these classes. And one of the big things that happened when they made those Xanverse changes was they couldn't really change the tree. You know, it was too late for that. They gave everyone a reset skill pass and they're like, go to town.
Yep.
But I think inside of New Genesis, they'll learn from that and they'll make something that's a little bit more free for all classes to use, and a little bit more fair and a little more of a buff specifically for support classes, you know, which I would personally appreciate that more. And I think a lot of other support players would too.
You want to tell Anamana
What's that?
the good thing about the skill trees in New Genesis?
So yeah. All right. So you want to play multiple classes, you want to play multiple ships.
Yeah.
So you unlock skill points through completing cocoons. And once you unlock a skill point, it is unlocked completely on your account, all classes, all ships.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And you can move them
A little
any way you like.
zesty. That's a little zesty.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you
No
happen
more
to,
reset skill trees. Okay.
yeah. So
I
if
have
you happen to
17
put
of
too
them
much
on
one
JP
way,
right now.
Yeah, I've got like 68 on global. 30 characters
Yeah.
comes in handy.
y'all reset trees. I just bought like 3 trees for each class. And was like,
Stop
all right,
it. Stop it.
one for subs, one for main, and then
What a JP
one
player.
for
Mhm.
whatever.
I did the same thing. I
literally
had a
did too.
different class one for every single one of my techers. I have a light, dark, specialist one, all of that stuff for my techers.
Well, you gotta know, like I play Gunblade, so with Gunblade comes a lot of
Mhm.
variety that I need. Like my fighter class needs to have a Tekker build, it needs to have a fighter main build, it needs to have a fighter or hunter sub build, and all of that comes with a lot of maintenance that I just don't care to go into right now because it's too much. Anyway, where were we again? I'm sorry.
Actually, well,
Talking about how New Genesis does skills better.
yeah, it does. I think we should go into what content we find ourselves playing. So we've heard some things like Magatsu and I guess like some solo stuff. We'll start with Rem. What kind of content outside, like, yep, we've talked about Phashion and stuff a little bit. I mean, why don't we go into Phashion? Like, what do you like about Phashion, and how could you expand upon how you approach Phashion in terms of that content, and even like other content you play outside of that?
Yeah, so outside of Phashion, just hitting that on the nose first, I really enjoy like group content anywhere where there's a structured MPA and we're fighting off like one single big boss. To me, that's my favorite. So like fights like Luther and like original TPD for me are really fun because you really get to that feeling, that satisfaction of taking down the big bad together. That to me is the experience for all MMOs, that we did it together. It's awesome. Like the screenshot at the end where everyone just poses, that to me is just like the most glorious thing.
Yep.
But then for Phashion, I think my favorite part about Phashion is how versatile it is, because there's a lot of outfits in the game, a lot of accessories, and a lot of base wears and innerwears that on their own come on present as really like form-fitting and cool. But there's a lot of diversity if you get creative. I've seen some crazy cosplays from like Ganondorf the whole way to like Neon Evangelica, just from people coming out and pulling together accessories and outfits that don't go together normally. And to me, just the creative nature of it is why I love it so much, and Phashion as a whole. It's not just showing off clothes and accessories and saying, wow, I look good today. It's, whoa, this is an art form. People are taking the time and dedication they would for real life cosplays and other events, putting on whole performances or stage plays to bring a character to life and share that with other people. And to me, that with Phashion is a very special moment, because you're not only getting to see something that player enjoys and that they love, but they are comfortable enough to share that with you. And it's an exciting moment, I think, for me and everyone watching, to see someone just strut their thing and be themselves. For a moment, they can just put down any facades and say, this is me. This is what I love. And that's what I love about Phashion.
Yeah. Do you go into like in depth with like color wheels and complementing like, I guess, textures and stuff with costumes when you're judging, like doing a fashion show?
So with the fashion shows, I actually don't do the judging myself, because I don't want it to seem biased or come off in a weird manner, because I host and I want to make sure everyone's having fun and doing their thing. As for the judges, I let them do what they think is best. But together over the last couple of shows, we come up with like an ordinal scoring system where it's how you match the theme. So rather than focusing on how it is or how complicated or complex, how match the theme. How did you bring it to life? Did you use like symbol arts, short chats, emotes? Like, are you a living impersonation of what the theme depicts? So I really give people, like, I guess, freedom to do whatever they want on the stage and to show us what they think this means to them. So their interpretation. I think that some of the judges really do consider color palettes and meshing. We've had Dreamcast on a few times. I don't know if you guys have seen him from Bark Sour from some of the screenshots he's done, but he's really about fashion, and he's like the Simon of all fashion, because he will criticize a costume down to a T, but then give pointers beyond belief.
Yep.
So for him, it's really down to the intricate nature of it. But for me and others, it's just, wow, this looks amazing. You brought this to life. So I know that's not as intricate as some people would expect, but to me, it's just like looking at art and admiring it.
Absolutely. So, what about content for you, Sharpie? What do you tend to? Where's your place?
I'm a solo player.
Yeah.
I'm very much so a solo player. I play with other people that play the game at a very high level. That's kind of what I do. One of the reasons why I was very careful about broadcasting that information earlier, and one of the reasons why I kind of shied away from doing PSO2 content, despite like my proclivity at doing a lot of content, was because I was actually very afraid that the developers of the game and the producers of the game didn't really like English players playing the game. You know, like there's a weird unspoken agreement when JP was out that, you know, if you were found playing this game because you had to have all these things that specifically said you were in Japan, if you were found and that was untrue, your account was gone.
Yep.
And I spent money on this account, you know what I mean? Like, I definitely spent money on AC items in this game, and so I did never wanted my account banned. So for me, a lot of the content in the game came from scourging forums, actively being on the Visiphone every other day, looking for a way to clear this a couple seconds faster, being in a bunch of different IRC chats and a different Discords when people started moving to Discord, talking about the best way to do certain mechanics. I actually, unfortunately, did not spend a lot of time with a lot of other English-speaking players besides my very close friends, because I felt like while I am very appreciative of the other aspects inside of PSO2, a lot of them didn't necessarily cater to me as a solo player.
Okay.
So I really love the customization that Phashion brings inside of the game. I really love the room feature, especially now that I'm on NA and I've like cleared all the content. I really, really love the fact that you can go around and like make your own weapons classes and have them match your outfit. But those aren't things that personally speak to me as a player. Those aren't things that personally make me feel like I've accomplished something. What really helps me feel like I've accomplished something is knowing that my gear and my build that I have here will allow me to finish like TPD solo. You know, like that's amazing to me, watching a lot of Japanese players do that. And so those are the people I tend to gravitate, for better or for worse. But I really have to say some of my favorite solo content in the game. My favorite addition in the game was honestly when they added the solo triggers for Heaven and Hell. The Mother and Deus triggers, I really, really enjoyed. Because what I would do is when I didn't have anything to do basically on JP, I would just go in and just run my drills. And I felt like that helped me so much technically as a competitive player, because my timing would be perfect, succinct. You know, it would be beautiful. And I could see my damage. I could see how much damage I was doing. It's frustrating playing the game and not having an end game counter tell you how much damage you're doing.
It is, yeah.
That is very difficult as a solo player. And I was very much so hoping that Sega would introduce some damage counter inside of the game for NGS or for NA. And I understand why they have not, because unlike me, there are a lot of solo players who use those tools to be toxic and cause a lot of hate on other people who don't necessarily play the game at the same level as them. And I would much rather they take those tools out of the game and desensitize and de-incentivize players that act that way than have it in the game and then have people, for lack of a better word, just be a butthole about it, you know? Like, it's very frustrating to me to see that we can't have this because this is what happened last time. And I'm very happy that Global happened the way it did, because on JP, that was not the story of what happened, you know? And so it's really nice to see people playing the game and being super awesome and seeing that just without that information, people are able to play and build and grow as players. That's what makes me happy. Because without any in-game parsing whatsoever, I feel like a lot of the community response has been a lot more positive, has been a lot less accusatory, has been a lot less, let's check your gear and see how good you are. It's been a lot more, let me see your mechanics and see where you are. We can try our best to defeat this. And I feel like that's what the game's values are. Even as a solo player, I still enjoy MPA content, especially with other solo players, because we all know we're all trying our best to defeat this one thing, which makes me really happy.
I think like there has been some like slight, every now and then you hear someone say someone check their gear, or the way I look at it is that it's always been like the absolute top, like the authorities of classes and stuff that have been legitimately helpful people. You never see them being toxic, and you even get people being like sweaty about affixes, and it's like, this isn't competitive. Like, if anything, wouldn't you want people to get better? And jumping on them isn't going to help that. So I definitely appreciate the people on the very top end legitimately going out of their way to coach people and help people get better, because that goes a long way, like a lot further than just being like, oh, you're trash and I'm very good. And there's no way to, like, anyone can say they're good. Saying someone's bad isn't a demonstration of someone being good, right?
Yeah.
So
see me and Rock Bear. See me and Rock Bear, it never happened.
Yep.
See, it's funny sometimes because I was just doing some HTPD runs, and a lot of the people who I do these HTPD runs with, and I go solo because just like you, I love my solo content. It's fun. I tend to think PSO2 is a pretty easy game. So when I play with the MPA, I always feel like, okay, I'm playing with the MPA. We're going to win.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason why we're going to lose, right?
Yeah.
But when I'm playing solo, it's like, okay, that might be a bit of a challenge here. Let's figure this out. So I love the strategy of trying to go in and, you know, figure out how to work the boss and get the, and not even just getting max damage, but figuring out how your rotation is going to be when you're fighting this boss, right? So
oh my god, yes. Like I honestly, I have to say, and I apologize for interrupting you,
good.
but I have to say one of my most favorite aspects of PSO2 is the break system, and the way that there are so many different like weak points on an opponent, so that it is possible for you to solo it if you do enough damage, if you know when to apply the damage, if you know when that weak point is going to appear, and when you know when the optimal timing is to do that makes me so happy as someone who plays fighting games, because it's like, oh my gosh, you mean I can just literally turtle this entire game and then come out and grab them? Like, yes.
Yep.
I mean, no, because say no to grapplers. But yes,
unless you're Iron Tager, you can't say no to Tager. But nah, it was just because, okay, so we walked into a game and there were two games. One where I noticed that everyone in my MPA had God affixes. I do not. My affixes run about 250 to 220 to 250 on attack. I'm good with that, right? My rotation, I'm Luster 1, don't really need that much attack. I'm already beefy at a nice 7.5k, right? All right, cool. I'm nice. But then my team has all God affixes, these buffed out weapons, a fully maxed out class. Really no reason why I should be holding aggro, but I'm still holding aggro.
Yep.
These are the same people who will say, well, the MPA is trash, or we're just not doing well enough, or someone has a bad weapon. Questioning everything, and then I'm just sitting here quiet like, yeah, but I had aggro the entire time. What are you talking about? You weren't even doing as great, but you're calling everyone else out. What? How?
Well, that's the thing, right? Is that you can buy a Ferrari, but do you know how to drive it properly?
Exactly.
Yep.
But then there was one guy today who I had to literally just say, hey, you can have that aggro. I can't get that back. One, because he walked in playing as Luster with a fully melee decked out class, and he was a male cast. He had himself min-max to the T. He took that aggro, and I knew I was never getting it back. I knew it. I was just like, you can have that. I respect you. You are a king. He knew how to play his Luster. It was great. It was fun. And we actually did that MPA. We made it to the second half of Sodom. And we ran it very well. 3 Lusters and 1 fighter. We ran it very well.
Did you complete?
No.
That would have been so damn annoying, right?
Honestly, the one thing that was stopping us from completing that run was the fact that as the 3 Lusters, the other 2 Lusters, although they were really good, they were not using Zaneverse as much. So we didn't have 3 sources of Zaneverse working in that extra damage to make up for the Tekker buff that we were missing, which would have been very useful. But I will say we did make some really good time. By the time we got to the second half of the final, by the time we got to like the new phase, Oh, excuse me. We were already like at 5-minute watch, which was pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. But there's a huge difference, you know. And when it comes to like the solo games that I love the most, it's just, yeah, it makes the game a little bit easier, a little bit harder for me, because I don't go into like the talk of PSO2 too much, because the way I see it, I'm like pretty cut and dry. I'm sorry. I'm just like, yo, I just go in and go burr. Like that's all I do. I can't get into the statistics of everything. I'm not going to talk to you about like percentages of attacks and different classes and spells, because at the end of the day, I know that I know how to play.
Yep.
And that is the one thing that I can do. And if I got to turn my brain off to do that, I will. I'm not overthinking when I'm playing. I just go in and I just know what to do. Now, it is a good feeling to have those certain accomplishments, but it does keep you going. It really does. Like when we played New Genesis, I did go in on the boss in New Genesis, and I soloed the UQ, and we beat him 3 times in a day on solo. It was very fun. My power level wasn't even higher than yours, actually, Anamana. My power level was like at 980 something the first time. Then we did it again at 1158. I don't know. It's crazy. I actually didn't go up. I didn't go past 1100. Yeah, no.
I think I was 1176 or something before the end of the closed beta. I think the most Ubil got was like 1205 or something like that, I think. What I was going to say before we move on
to be stopped.
Before we get on to next topic.
Can I add one thing real quick before we move on after your thing?
Yeah. Okay. So I was going to say Deus and base TPD, absolutely the best way for a person to learn their class, because the way they telegraph is like perfect.
Yeah.
But what were you going to say? Sorry.
Absolutely love it. I was going to say, to add on to XingKazma's point here, I had a similar experience where I was technically gear checked, and what is it, that one with Apprentice Lilypaw, and they have the bases, base defense
Ending, yeah.
Like I'm not a big fan of base defense. First and foremost, I will start off by saying that I really haven't been since like season 4, and it's because they keep doing it over and over again. At a certain point, you're like, please stop.
Yeah.
Just give us something else. Like at the very least, give us smaller parties and don't make us defend as many. You know.
Agree.
So this latest base defense, I think, has kind of blown everyone's mind, because all the opponents are actively leveled up in UH, and a lot of people haven't figured out how to focus aggro in the final stages to like protect the towers. So everyone just, by the time we get to the final stage of unpubbing, we're probably, if I'm top parse, first of all, we're probably not clearing it. Yeah. Like if I'm top parse and I'm at Twa, we're probably not clearing it. This is probably a wipe.
Yeah.
And it was really frustrating, because there was one point in time I was just playing. First of all, I don't really text or anything when I play. I don't have auto chat on, because once again, I just play. I don't have symbol art or anything like that. So I was just playing, and I got top parse as always, even though, my gear's pretty nice, but like there are other people who have nicer gear than me. I have like 200 on each unit or so, a little bit of health. And then my weapon is just, standard light, standard Kraz, right?
Yeah.
I play it, and I get top parse, and then the guy's like, oh, Sharpie's in here, and he had just seen me and Franca's, and he was like, your S1, which by the way is tech boost. I have 180 on my Krav, and he was like, by the way, your S1 is not optimized at all. Like you can get a better S1 for 50 mil. And I'm looking at the dude, and he's not even showing up on this at all, right? And I'm like, how are you going to tell me top parse how to do this and how to min max? It's really funny, because you're trying to explain all of this to a veteran who's been playing this game for almost like 10 years now. That's kind of insane. Like you don't have to tell me to min max. And in that same boat, he has like the S1 of, what is it, that Og Will 2, which I don't think NA has figured out doesn't actually apply to S affixes. I don't think they figured that out yet. And so like they're sitting here using that's getting the exact same potential boost as tech boost, literally the exact same one that tech boost would give you, and they're spending like 50 mil on it. And I'm like, but it's not worth explaining. It even says it on the Wikipedia, because it's like, I understand why they're doing it. The flavor text says per augment. And I get that, because on JP, I had the same confusion until one of my friends showed me, the Wikipedia and the math behind it, and then I tested, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. So technically, Tech Boost 2 will be optimal when it comes out on NA, if it comes out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for right now, there's no reason for me to put Augment on there because I'm not even going to get an additional potential. I'm going to get the exact same amount of potential percentage that I have now. But he saw it somewhere that this was optimal. So because I don't have it, nothing is optimal.
Yeah.
And I'm
That's really
here, honey. I can't. I was just like, why don't you get top parse and then you tell me how to build? Just do that. Just top 3 parse and you can tell me how to build all day you want. But until then, I'ma just play the game. And I honestly wish there was a feature inside of the game. This is what I really wanted to say at the end of it, is that there have been times where, as being someone who is known offline inside of other communities, I've been recognized on both the Japanese servers and the NA servers. And I will say that I really wish there was an option to disable chat from completely showing up at all on my screen.
Yes,
I do wish that was an option.
Yes.
Because I've disabled chat from showing up in my little text box, or I have it only show up in my text box for group and alliance and private chat, so that doesn't come up when I stream. But if someone decides to come close to me and just spam a bunch of very inappropriate things that I will not repeat on your very respectful podcast, it's incredibly hard to immediately blacklist them before the damage is already done.
Absolutely.
So,
we had that in the closed beta as well.
Just being able to completely disable chat would be
I
fantastic.
forgot about him. That's good old Smitty right there.
To share a story, basically what happened to me on the Japanese server was I made a character with a darker skin, and immediately when I jumped in the server on a certain ship, I was immediately called a series of slurs. And the same thing has not happened on NA, but there have been a lot of inappropriate conversations that I've been privy to that I probably could have done without seeing, especially as someone who's exclusively playing the game for the content. That's kind of something that I do wish would be fixed. And I did want to add that just on the piggyback of, and gear checkers are kind of scummy, you know?
Yeah, it like on one hand as well, like what you're saying is, going back on what you were saying originally with the Japanese servers, all you can really do is blacklist, right? Because if you report them, that could like open your account up to being reviewed and stuff like that, which is but
which you couldn't do. You can only just blacklist them, and so
also the other thing I was going to say was gear checkers. Like there's a lot of people that talk up that they're like, it's just what we go back to saying is like just saying someone's bad doesn't mean you're good. And the other problem as well is with NA, like as soon as NA dropped, we were having a lot of people trying to re-theory craft a lot of stuff that had already been theory crafted. And it's like, there's going to be different with New Genesis. Like, don't get me wrong, people that legitimately like the theory craft, it's going to be good for them. But like, you don't rewrite the English language just because you just got born in 2020 and you think it could be done better, right? Yeah.
100%. I super agree. I feel like there really isn't very much need to rewrite the wheel in a lot of these situations, and I wish a lot of the Japanese knowledge was more readily available than it is right now, which is the big problem.
See, I'll tell you this for sure, gear checking is completely useless, guys, because I took off all of my armor and did a floor 40 Soda run and still beat the time of people with fully equipped gear. So like, don't gear check, do better. That's all I can really say, do better. But
we'll do this one quickly and then we'll get into NGS discussion. But do we have a favorite moment from PSO2? We'll start with Rem. What was your most recent favorite moment?
My most recent favorite moment, it was probably like 2 days ago. 2 of my friends had like an in-game wedding and we were all invited. So it was just like a really surreal and just cute experience because everyone just gathered together in the Alliance quarters and we set up a whole wedding for 2 people that have been together for forever. And it was just, great to share that moment with them.
That's pretty cool. And at least there's the wedding dress and outfits and stuff in the game, right?
That's kind of cute.
Yeah, they were both wearing those. Like the black one was recently in Fresh Finds, and then one of the original ones, it was like almost gold. It was gorgeous. And it was, I don't know, moments like that are just really like eye-watering and like touching.
Absolutely. What about you, Sharpie?
It was one of the very first moments of the PSO2 NA or PSO2 Global coming out. And it was like the first month or so, but the team that we created was top 20 on the server. on the ship that we were on, and I was really proud of that because I'm obviously a solo player, so I play very very focused, and I had been training all of these new people who had never played the game before, and so to see us on the top of, you guys like got the most rare drops, than any other team, and that was just because I had taught people basically how to PSE burst and focus them inside of explorations.
Yep.
That was a really big deal. That was a really, really big deal. I was really excited about that. I was really proud of my entire team.
Yeah.
To show my appreciation, I gave them all like little $10 gift certificates for PayPal and just PayPal them all $10. I was like, go crazy on AC, guys.
Yep. Awesome. Start whaling.
Exactly. Let's define all this now. So basically we had done all of this inside of like an exploration, and then we went into an advanced quest, and we started forcing the bursts.
Yep.
And we all ended up finishing with some of the best weapon set at that game, which was the double armor set. And so we would just flaunt inside of different blocks our double armor arms.
Yep.
And like people were like, where did you get those? And we're like, play the game. And it was the best thing ever. We sold each one of those double arms, I think, for like 25 mil.
Damn.
When they first came out. It was very fun.
Wow.
It was very fun.
What about King? Recent fave?
Oh, the sleep I got after the new Genesis beta.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that was the best moment ever, dude. Like, oh my god. So keep it real short. The start of the beta that Friday, I had a rerun, and then I had to go to work at 3 a.m, and I had that rerun going for all of 12 hours, and then I came home and then immediately streamed for 12 more hours. That was a whole 24-hour stream, and then I literally only went to sleep for an hour and came right back. So there was a lot of work, there was a lot of recording, there was a lot of fun, especially with you guys and everything. But afterwards, I think I passed out for the better part of maybe 30-something hours. I was out.
Yes.
Yeah. Anamana tried to kill me.
What?
Yeah. The hot sauce with the whiskey.
Oh goodness.
So my singing was actually really terrible because that thing destroyed my throat, and
It's
I didn't
napalm.
realize it until I woke up the next morning. My throat was a wreck. I could barely speak. It was very sore. I was like, "Yep, Anamana tried to kill me that day."
I
All
like
this
the
gamer on gamer crime.
this is
Okay.
when I used to go to like house parties and stuff. You'd take a bottle of Tabasco whiskey, and there'd always be that dude that would be like very confident, like kind of like, let's knock him down a peg. And it'd be like, all right, buddy, you like hot stuff? It's like, yeah, I do hot stuff all the time. And you'd give them like a shot glass of Tabasco, you get them to swish it in their mouth for 5 seconds, and then you chase it with whiskey, and it's basically napalm because it's opened up all the taste buds. And watching grown men cry from a drink is pretty funny.
It's
You're
wild.
evil, like actually evil. I'm just
Actually, I use them to sober up at a party.
There's never any situation I feel like you should be doing that.
I
I
for the
don't feel
kid.
like
It was-
any point in time when someone's like, hey, you know what would be a really good chaser for this Tabasco? Whiskey. I feel like that's the point at which you're like, hey man, maybe it's time to go home.
It was
You
for
know?
the kid.
I feel like that's the point you're at in conversation.
It was for the kids. For the kids.
Actually, you want to know the best way to sober someone up that's had too much? Get them like a bottle of whatever they're drinking, fill it with water, and go skull, skull. That way, they're
That's
getting the
true.
water into them.
I'm required to tell you by the FDA, the only real way to sober up is time, kids.
Or
Time.
bread.
Don't
Saltine-
drink and
Saltine
drive.
crackers.
Yeah.
Whenever you're drunk, just flip on top, like flip yourself over and sit on your head and eat saltine crackers.
Really? Is that a thing?
No.
I mean, the saltine crackers might work, but I don't know about the flipping on your head. That's just to amuse me while you eat some saltine crackers. That'll just make me happy. Like, you're fixing yourself, but you didn't have to turn over, so you just could have just ate the saltine crackers. It's
Yeah.
humoring
Also,
me.
like, drink in moderation. Don't go the clackers just because everyone else is making bad life choices, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Don't get,
plan to go
don't
back
get
out, you gotta go back up.
cirrhosis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my recent favorite was New Genesis. Let's just leave it at that. I need New Genesis right now. Like, I'm basically done with PSO2. I will say, just for context, as a player, I've done some of like the top end content. Like, I don't do endless or stuff like that, but I've done like I've done Phaleg. I've done some of the stuff with. I'm getting into HTPD, but I'm taking my time with it. Where I tend to focus my time is min-maxing 30 characters. So that's been a thing recently, but I'm trying to move away from that with New Genesis not having dailies and weeklies per character. It's per account now. So
you know what I will say I appreciate about PSO2 right now?
Yeah.
I feel like the divide quests are really good.
Divides are fun.
I can just, when I was playing on JP, like frequently before NA came out and I started spending a lot more time on there, I would just log in, do my divides on like my 7 different characters, and then be good. Like for the day or for the week or whatever. And it felt very rewarding when I was doing divides. Like that is good solo content. That is good general content. I understand how you feel about Endless because I feel the same way about Endless. You know what I mean? Like it's a little bit too much for me. Look at Kaz. He's just like, meh, you know, endless, whatever. And if we had Raven on here, Raven be saying the same thing. It's like, give me a real test, you know? I get it. I super understand it, but Endless is not for me like that end all be all that I feel like a lot of other players have that are solo players. I feel like the raids, similar to you, Anna, are the exact same way, but specifically divide quests are such a touch inside of the game. It's like exploration 2.0, you know? Do you think they'll bring him back in NGS?
Ultra hard endless quests or Riot.
Oh my god.
Why are you like this?
When are they going to bring back ultra hard advanced quests, right?
Bring those. I want it. Run that. I need a challenge.
I don't think we'll see divides. So it's the difference between a hub system and a open world game, right?
Yeah.
Unless they had any of those quests, they could tie them to cocoons, but I couldn't see them being out in the world, if that makes sense.
I will say that I was very excited in New Genesis to see the open world system, but I was also kind of sad just because a big part of, I feel like, the addicting personality in PSO2 is the fact that you have to come out of the camp ship every single time to the same lobby as everyone else, you know?
Replace one addiction with another.
No, I know. I understand, and it makes sense because other MMOs, specifically like Final Fantasy and World of Warcraft, all do the same thing, you know? You have the town, and then outside is the open world where you go raid and quest. And I get that, and I understand that. I just understand the tendency with an open world system tends to be, yo, let's make them run for another hour and a half. And I'm having flashbacks to Lich King right now. I apologize.
Oh, no.
But let's make them run for an hour and a half to get to this raid that's only up for another 5 hours. And then they do it once, and then they have to go back to send in this quest unless they have a mount. You know, like that's what I'm not excited for. But I am very excited because in PSO2, you can just go straight to the content. I'm hoping New Genesis doesn't change that.
Well, on the plus side,
but I'm gonna play it regardless. The game looked great.
Yeah, you can literally open up the map and then teleport straight into a cocoon or to an urgent quest. So at least there's that side of it as well. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get into NGS discussion. So we'll start out with what class we're thinking of, I guess, starting with. So let's go with King this time. What are you going to start with? Is it going to be Fighter?
I mean, so with Prologue 4 coming up, if they do announce Gunblade, which I just keep having my fingers crossed because it's one of their universal weapons that you can use on any class. I'm just hoping that they keep the tradition of PSO2's Gunblades. If not, then I'll just go Fighter. I like Fighter. It's very fluent. The counter, having the different optimal ways that you can basically continue after a counter. You know, you're able to do weapon action, do the swift counter, and then weapon action again, and that does like a whole fist. Or you can do a PA, or you can do a normal attack, and that will immediately throw you into the 5th normal attack from your string. I'm like, okay, these are a lot of different ways. Some of them are more powerful than others. Like the 5th normal attack, it's more powerful, but it has a bigger frame on startup. So you'll end up getting hit by something and then dying if you make the wrong move. So you're better off either going with the PA or going with the second weapon action. It's really fun, especially to play that guessing game with new enemies that I know nothing about. So if I guess wrong, I'm probably gonna die. And I've died a couple of times. I think I died twice in the whole beta simply because of that. And yeah, it's a fun learning curve. But if they do Gunblade, I'm definitely going Gunblade. So listen, PSO, give me my blade. I'm not playing these games.
If you're playing not to die, are you really playing?
I'm not playing these games. Give me my blade.
We've actually
Oh, my
we actually came up with a phrase after playing CBT2 called J-Star Revival. And that's because on NA, no one fucking revives, right? Like,
Yeah.
Oh god.
and
That's on JP too.
we're playing,
That's just that's just an English player thing.
yeah,
English players typically do not revive. JP players do.
Mhm.
But English players traditionally don't revive as much. So if you die, that's it.
yeah. Well, our mindset now is if you're not reviving people, you're throwing DPS, right?
Oh yeah, easy.
Yep.
Atomizer Fanatic, and also in NGS, because it's like a 1 second cast, you might as well get them back up. Just we literally bind it to our pinky on our number row, so that way we can instantly revive people. But that's where it comes from, because we're playing JP and like you'd see someone die and you wouldn't even have the time to press the button because the Japanese players would just instantly revive people.
Yeah, they do. It's great. It's fantastic. I love it because they're very much so like, oop, we lost GPS, and there's no more. Like a lot of people talked a lot of mess on this on JP, but them removing the death restraints inside of UH added a lot more clear counters across the board, and it helped a lot of NA players too. So like now there's really no desensitized. There's no reason not to raise people, and that's the camaraderie I like.
Absolutely.
It's good to see that still exists inside of NGS at a higher level than it unfortunately exists right now on PSO2 Global.
Yep. What about what class, Sharpie? What are you going to play?
So I will preface this by saying I have not had an opportunity to play the CBT, and I did get into it, but unfortunately my processor is a little bit too antiquated to be registered as good. So I'm building a new machine, and it should be ready at the end of this month, the beginning of next month, to be able to play the game. But from all the gameplay that I have seen, I think I may mess around with Fighter a little bit. Just like Kat, it's the fighting game in me. I know I keep saying it, honey, but it's such an integral part of why I appreciate this game at that level. Is if I don't have that feeling of I was rewarded for doing this inside of the game the way that the game specifically wanted me to, without using the most optimized path of doing it, then it's like I don't see any reason to play the game. So it feels to me, from all the gameplay I've seen, Fighter is the closest class to doing that for me.
Yep.
I'm really upset it's not Hunter, because I really do like the Partisan. I love the Partisan. And I'm kind of upset that it's not Tekker either, because the gameplay just didn't look as rewarding to me right now. But Fighter definitely seems very heavy up my alley.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What about Rem? Are you gonna be Force?
Absolutely. But there's some like caveats to that. So in the CBT, I noticed Photon Flare really wasn't all that strong. No matter what situation I was in when I used it, the damage numbers didn't spike by much, maybe like 10 or 20, which when you're hitting 500-600, that doesn't scale properly. So I'm hoping they improve that and maybe introduce things down the skill tree line that enhance elemental weakness or damage or chance of X to occur. But I found like two really like janky builds that worked out really well. Tekker Force is really strong because you get all the positive aspects of Tekker, including the massive heal and constant shifted D-band, which keeps you at 20% extra damage and buffing, and everyone else. And you still get all the Force abilities other than Photon Flare. So I almost feel like for me in NGS, depending on how Force main works out, I might do Force sub. I even found Ranger main and Force sub to work out really well because it kind of played like Phantom. It was, with Ranger, you're all over the place. You can apply Weak Bullet multiple times with almost no downtime. And I found that the fact you can use Scatter Shot, have that rifle to get you in close and build up PP, and then switch over to Tex, especially with a combined weapon, was just mesmerizing in a way. It almost feels like to me that Force might be like the new like sub per se, rather than like a main class for things that really brings Tex to everyone, healing to everyone, and like we were saying with reviving and really that camaraderie that we really need in global. Everyone was reviving. Like everyone had a Force or a Tekker in the group or that sub, and it was just constant. And having 5 revives in the field, wow, that really helps.
Yep. I would also say that we're moving into a generation with PSO2 New Genesis where it kind of makes us rethink about how we're approaching classes and subclasses, where a lot of people are saying if you're going to play Hunter, just go Fighter with Hunter as a sub, because at least in the closed beta, Hunter wasn't bringing enough to the table in terms of the skill tree, and you'd benefit from the bonuses from Fighter if you had, and you were going to go as Sword or something like that. You could use that weapon entirely, play it as a hunter outside of maybe, not using Warcry and stuff like that. So there was that option. And also for Tekka, like Rem was saying, so I was playing Tekka during the closed beta. I think they've added some utility, but I'm just hoping there are a few more like photon arts. They've added one extra one, which is nice, but I think they need a little bit more. But using Ranger as a PP regeneration was very good. And I also found that in terms of, so the way it works now is each weapon basically has a photon blast. And I just felt that Tekka's wand was a little bit too slow in that generation. So having Ranger to offset that helped a lot. So I don't know what I'm going as yet. I'm kind of torn between Ranger, Tekka, and Force at the moment. But very interesting time. So are we starting new characters? King?
No. So my character is a character that has been with me for the longest time. Whenever I can create a character, I have Reyna. Dragon Ball Xenoverse, Code Vein, everything that requires you to create a character, and always has the same staple, the kind of tealish aqua blue hair with the violet colored eyes, and just this insane symbol of badass woman. Like, excuse me, I love it, I support it, and it's like one of the biggest things. I know I get a lot of questions normally when say, why is your character always a woman? It's like, well, one, I had a mom that raised me and 3 kids, so badass woman has always been the staple, and I keep saying that because that's kind of what it is. Not a damsel in distress all the time
out here. We stand them.
Oh yeah.
And it's always just good to see. We see a lot of men take charge, become like this really crazy, powerful being all the time. But yeah, this character here who's a woman, she's kicking butt. She's a Saiyan. She's an Arc. She's a demon hunter. It's really cool. Then I also used to make a manga back when I was in middle school, and she was like the main character of it, and had a sister named Kyrie. So it was a whole bunch of stuff that goes into this. But yeah, long story short, I will be keeping my character, but I may actually make more characters because I have my own male version that comes in too.
I would actually say, look at the PSO2 story, it's carried by women, right?
Yes.
Oh my god, none of the men are interesting.
No, they're not.
Also,
I did a tier list.
Like, I think like maybe something like 95% of all the characters on any Japanese server are women. So,
Yeah.
Counter to what you get,
weird.
King, in terms of asking why you play as a woman. I get people asking, why do you play as a character with hair if you're bald? And it's like, mate, are you literally like a 16-year-old anime robot girl in real life? I don't think so. So yeah, I had someone say that on my big stream for day one. They're like, I agree with that point. Sorry. So I'll be keeping my characters. I've got 30. I can't make more. What are you gonna say?
Understandable.
Cool.
I thought you were about to say something, King.
Oh no, I just had a shiver go down my back.
Okay.
I was like, whoa, I was shaking it off.
Yeah.
Weird.
Rem, what about you? Are you taking in characters, making new ones?
I'll be carrying over the same character. I only play one character. That way I can kind of do everything on one. But just like what King said, Rem to me is like a model. Even before ReZero was a thing. It's kind of funny how that worked out. But I've always gone with the blue hair, blue eyes. I'm actually colorblind. Fun fact: I can't see anything in the hot color spectrum. It's all brown to me. So blue and green, I've vibed with it forever. And this character's been with me since my first MMO and how I design things. And I really want to take that moving forward too. And being a trans female too, she's a symbol for me. That representation is very important to me because people saying like play how you look in real life to me is weird. Because I think, why not express and be something that you want to be so the world can see you how you see yourself? So totally bringing my character in.
Yep. Awesome. How about Sharpie?
Oh yeah, I have several accounts. So yes, yes, I'm bringing all of my characters. Yes.
Oh yeah.
I have 4 Japanese accounts. I have 3 different NA accounts. Yes.
Oh yeah.
I will be bringing all 79 characters.
Holy
yes.
crap. Yep. Nice.
I play this game a lot.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised that I've never talked about this game on a podcast now, saying that out loud, but also I'm not, now that I've said it out loud, because who would ever want to admit that they
Yeah.
have 79 characters between like 5 different accounts?
Yeah.
Who would ever want to say that?
Yeah, I don't see how y'all do it. I spend so much time on just one character and just making sure it's like, it was at a point where I had an Excel spreadsheet of like 60 outfits for one character, and because it's not enough, we only get 40 slots. I'm like, that's not enough. At a point, I got to get rid of something. I was like, well, I don't want to actually get rid of it, so I'm just gonna move it to an Excel spreadsheet, and I'm just gonna keep everything else here and catalog it here.
Yeah.
And whenever I want to get rid of something else, just move it. But like, I don't see how y'all can do that. Like, I honestly couldn't do it. Like,
It's a lot,
30
and I've had to
characters?
max all of those characters. Like all of them have at least one max class. There are a couple of few on select ships that are all maxed on JP. There's like maybe 4 or 5 characters on them. The other ones only have like Etoile max, so I can do my weekly divides. But on NA, like I think I only have 2 characters completely maxed with more than 2 characters that have level 100 of more than just Etoile. But it's a process. It's been really easy with the rainbow keys they've been feeding us, but it's still like, it's a lot of time.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
definitely.
time.
I feel like
Yeah,
I would
okay.
probably go more if there was like an easier account switch system. Once it gets to me having to type out a password, it loses me basically.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how I felt with JP too. But I had to do it. You know, you have to. Like it's one of those things that you're like compelled. You're like, oh man, this event's really good.
Yeah.
I definitely want dupes of this item. Not to sell, just because.
Yeah.
You know, like I want dupes in case I get to move these items over. I really like this camo.
Mhm.
And then, you know, 5 hours later after you beat the Japanese gotcha, you have another account.
Yep. Definitely.
Fair,
What I
yeah.
will say as well is that well, like I was saying before, with your weeklies not being at character level, they're at account level now. So I think as well, having multiple characters, and like we were saying about unlocking the skill points, you could technically use all those characters as a different coat of paint kind of thing, right? It's like, well, today I feel like playing as like green haired anime girl. Tomorrow I'll play as like Gundam, you know?
yeah.
I'm very
I need
excited
that.
for that prospect. I have quite a few characters that I enjoy that with.
Mhm.
Sometimes even just like when you're lobby sitting, you just want to be not this character, you
Yeah.
know, even if you're just having a conversation. It's like, oh man, you know, I worked really hard on this and this character looks this way and we'd look really nice sitting here for no reason other than waiting for the next UQ together, you know, like let's just do it.
Yeah.
That's fun.
So what crossovers would we like to see going forward, like collaborations with other brands, I guess, or IPs? Or PSO2? We'll start with Sharpie because your eyes lit up with that question.
Why have we not had .hack yet?
True. Yeah.
Why have
Wow,
we not
yeah,
had
right?
.hack? I wouldn't have said nothing if they didn't do SAO.
Yeah.
Why have we not had .hack?
Mhm.
Real talk.
They-
Like tell me the honest answer
Mhm.
without lying.
Yeah.
What possible reason could Sega and Microsoft have for not bringing back the franchise that personally brought an entire generation of people into isekais?
Yeah.
Like
To
let
answer
me
this one,
know.
I'm about to answer this one.
Band and Namco.
SAO is sexier.
Ooh.
Stop it. Don't make me do this right
Is
now
it?
on your
Let's
own
go.
podcast.
I know-
Okay, don't make me do this right now because I want to know.
It's actually an
what
isekai
are-
harem.
Oh no.
Okay. You know what? Out of respect to the other people right now in this podcast,
Tell me I'm wrong.
I'm not
Tell
going
me
to
I'm
you
wrong.
You're wrong.
why you were incorrect, friend.
It is the isekai harem.
I will say I very much so hope that your intentions of what makes a good isekai harem isn't exclusively
no,
that the
no.
protagonist literally has to save a girl from
No.
sexual harassment at the end from the main
No.
character, and then they have
No.
a second season that doesn't even really or
No, that's not what I'm
canonically
saying.
make sense exclusively for money. I'm really gonna have to hope you didn't mean any of that.
No, what
I'm really gonna have
I'm
to
simply saying that .hack just doesn't have as many female characters.
Dot
which
Hack
we all
doesn't
know-
have as many female characters, but their
Oh.
story is worlds better. In addition, there's already something canonically that makes sense for them breaking the game instead of just, oh yeah, we're going to Earth now. I'm
Okay,
just saying
all
it's
right.
already a better story than most of
If
the
you-
isekais we've seen.
if you want my real answer is mainly because, okay, here's why we don't get dot hack, because anime didn't really start popping off until about until about 2014, when anime really started popping off, and it was mainly shonen. Now, Sword Art Online and Log Horizon are probably the two most known isekai video game type animes out there. Dot hack is a little seed in the sea of the anime community, right down there with Paranoia Agent, right down there with Fully Coolly. We're not talking about the new 2 seasons.
What about
talking
Futurama?
about the old school seasons. Yeah, even Futurama. Whereas though now it's like Family Guy and Bob's Burger, and Futurama is all the way down here, right? So here's that little T right here. We forgot about Dot Hack. You know what Dot Hack died? Dot Hack died with Project Cross Zone and Project Cross Zone 2. We don't even talk about that no more. You know why? Because now Sword Art Online has come, and Sword Art Online is up here. And you want to know why Sword Art Online beats out Dot Hack in popularity?
Because they need to make a new Dot Hack.
Yeah, I mean, yes, they actually do. But Sword Art Online beats that out because Sword Art Online has more female characters, which attracts more teenage boys, which attracts more popularity to the anime community, which is why it is on Phantasy Star. Now, I am upset because I didn't get a scene on outfit. I'm just saying, but...
Okay, the actual crossover I want besides Dot Hack, because Kaz completely ruined my answer, albeit they're very good, and I'm sorry to any other millennials who had to listen to that terrible explanation about why the best isekai of all time was trumped by a very half-heartedly written isekai. Is I really like to see So I'm a Spider Now merch inside of it. That'd be really, really good. I've been reading the visual novel as well as the light novel, as well as the comic. I'm sorry, as well as the manga and the anime. And I think it's in a really good place right now to get an adaptation and a really nice boost, specifically from Sega.
Jet Set Radio.
Still right, though.
Yeah. That'd be nice.
Rem, what about you?
Rem?
So I had like 4 things come to mind. The first one has already been done in JP, but we never got an NA, and I really wish we would. ReZero, to me, was a really like emotional story. And with NGS and the modeling and how they have a lot of the mapping, they could really bring that to life, especially with the new movies being pushed out, the fact that the light novels keep pumping out left and right, the web novels going strong, and they just have all of this new content coming out that honestly Sega could capitalize on. They've worked with the author before, they could totally do it again. The second one I thought of that, I don't know why it never happened. Why isn't Full Metal Alchemist in here? That would be perfect. Like,
there's licensing information right now because Netflix has a deal. So
that's the biggest
they
thing.
can always make a deal with Square Enix, because Square Enix is a subsidiary company to Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Interesting.
Subsidiary to what company that owns Full Metal?
So Square Enix helped produce Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. They do own some rights to it.
But who owns the main IP?
Aniplex.
Okay, I think that's the problem right now, if I had to guess, is because they're temporarily giving those rights to Netflix. I'm pretty sure we won't see any additional information come out about Full Metal as far as marketing for like a while. It'd be cool to see it in PSO2 though, but I'm thinking
lobby action.
Yeah, I think they're waiting to see how well it's received via Netflix right now. Is because the big problem is anime coming into America, specifically the United States of America, is still a relatively new phenomenon. Like you stated so succinctly inside of your horrible, completely incorrect opinion about Dot Hack.
Oh my gosh.
It was so true though.
You know what? There's been like multiple steps of like anime's growth, right? It started with kids in high school, and then it moved to university anime clubs, and then it moved to like, I feel like from there, internet mainstream.
And I feel like a very heavy component of anime, specifically Japanese animation's growth, was really the internet, allowing it to be more accessible to everyone. Because it was like one of those things where it was like, I had read Dot Hack before I even heard of Phantasy Star Online 2, you know, or Phantasy Star Online the original, but I hadn't seen any of it because it was so difficult for me to view it ever in my local area, especially when I didn't have like, you know, access to a computer at all times. That just becomes harder. But then as the internet becomes more profound and technology becomes widely available, it's a lot easier to view and see everything. And you can see it now on Netflix, you can see it on Hulu, you can see it on Crunchyroll. I think the biggest thing that made it more accessible was the internet providing location for people to congregate and talk about a niche thing, specifically anime, and then for people just to share it on social media and be like, hey, what anime is that? And then you start looking at, you get people like Crunchyroll, you get Funimation, you know, you get pirators that no one uses.
Pirating would have been like a barrier.
COVID-19.
Would have been a barrier for pirating as well. Like not everyone knows how to do that. And
yeah. But like there are so many ways to view anime now that weren't available when a lot of us were children, or even like just, I would even say 10 years ago. There were very few available options to watch anime besides what was on Funimation. If you got Funimation, if you knew somehow Funimation existed, like that was it. Maybe you watched Adult Swim super late and happened to see an episode of Fooly Cooly, you know, like that was it. But it's so much more accessible now in general, just because of so many people's love for it. And I think Avatar: The Last Airbender really helped anime pull into the mainstream. I'm gonna be real with you. I really think Avatar: The Last Airbender did a lot of things for animation, especially American animation, bringing that into the mainstream, because more kids grew up being like, yo, anime is kind of cool, you know? And also, as much as we all hate 4Kids, like Fox,
hell yeah.
Fox knew what they were doing.
Static Shock every morning. Fight the criminal's face to get bad guys. Save the world. Fly to the sky.
Static was not on 4Kids.
Yeah,
well, at least
it
not
was.
my 4Kids. You may be thinking, well, on mine it was WB.
It was on
had Static
WB.
Shock.
Yeah, it was on WB, but I think it was on 4Kids too. No, but I think it was on 4Kids too.
It was not.
We can try to look
WB
this
is
up.
property of DC. Static Shock is property of DC Comics, which is owned by
Warner Brothers. I know
so
that.
it was on WB, not 4Kids, which is owned by Fox.
Is it not on 4Kids?
Nope.
Pretty sure
like it was on
4Kids was Fox, yeah.
No, because you know, shows go everywhere every now and again. I remember Butt Ugly Monster.
Not property of WB, honey. I don't know how much.
Do you want, like,
if you're wondering why there hasn't been a Static Shock reboot, it's because of that.
Do you want to know a boomer animation that I think also helped? Reboot.
Yes.
As scuffed as it would probably look these days, going back to it. But yeah.
Bring us an Inuyasha crossover, actually. Didn't they just have a new Inuyasha? Bring us an Inuyasha crossover. Give us some ideas for Ranma, honey. Let's do that. No, but yeah.
I would actually love to see like old school. Oh, sorry, Rem, you go.
I'm sorry. I just want to say for like the third one that came up, like this is just like short to the point. I think it'd be great because we've had orcs and ogres already in PSO2, but I'm not a bat slime slurp.
Yes.
So seeing like Rimuru Tempest and the whole crew like come into NGS could be really interesting. And because they already have orc models, they could totally do the Goblin Village, like hands on.
It'd be cute. Yep. It'd be really cute. Orc Girl was probably one of my faves. Pink Orc Girl? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Just imagine turning into a slime. I don't know.
I was going to say Breath of Fire. That series would be really cool. And also, just in general, like old school Phantasy Star, like before PSO and universe stuff. Even though it's like super 80s looking these days, but
I like what they do with the Alliance rooms. You know, like the team rooms, the special one where you can go back to PSO2 and New Genesis. And I also like the little crossover event that they had with the original PSO characters, because I never had met them. And after playing that event, I wanted to like learn more about that universe. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I hope they do make a PSO universe reference at some point in NGS, because I feel like that community does deserve a little bit of love.
Yeah, they got like omitted from a lot of the last few streams I've had. When they've talked about all the other games, sometimes they've actually completely omitted Phantasy Star Universe, which is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually,
there are a lot of people that have come from that game community that are now playing PSO2 and NGS. There were a lot of people that started playing that when they played PSO2 Global. They were like, oh yeah, the last game I played was PSU. You know, it's basically the same game. I was like, it's not the same game. Never played that game before, but it's completely different. And they were like, it is completely different. But I just wish they recognize that a lot of their community does come from that, even if it's not necessarily anyone here on this podcast. There is a very vast and amazingly apt and ready community of PSU players that are here exclusively because they played that game and had a positive experience.
I would also mention that apparently, I don't know if it's the producer or who, but maybe it's the director. One of them is basically the person that did PSU for New Genesis. So I think there's going to be a lot of familiarity in systems and stuff. So that's...
Yeah, he originally worked on the portable games.
Oh, really?
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he had some work in PSU too. I'm trying to remember the article word for word right now, but it's yeah. I'm too good for this.
Have I asked, have you mentioned your crossovers, King?
No.
Go.
I got
Not
4.
hack.
4?
No.
4 kids?
No, I got 4. Yeah, 4 kids. Inuyasha, because it needs to not be slept on, and I feel as though Tetsaiga and Tenseiga would make great Braver and Hunter weapons. Just saying. Jockin staff would be a good force weapon. The other one was going to be Kaguya-sama Love is War. Like, that'd be a really cool slice of life animated throw in there as well. And then I want to have Detective Conan, Case Closed, however you want to say the title of that. I still watch it to this day, 1,000 episodes strong. It needs to have some love outside of the Japanese community because it is literally the Law and Order of Japan, but it's just animated and it's great and it's so much better. And then lastly, my 4th one was going to be Gundam, because you can't have something this good with character customization and not give us either Gundam or Zoids. I'm very disappointed we haven't had either or yet, because I see a lot of people still cosplaying Unicorn Gundam, which is one of my favorite Gundams. Actually, it is my favorite Gundam, Unicorn. It looks so bland, but then when it opens up, it expands. You see that purple aura comes out. It's like the freaking beast afterwards, right? So I still see people cosplay it, and I'm like, just give us the Gundam. Just give us Gundams, or have us customize AIS to look like Gundam, something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those are my 4.
All right.
Yeah.
Pretty good one. And I mean, Gundam, like, that's the one collab when people are like, have we had it? And like people scratch their head and it's like, no, we haven't. It seems like it's something we should have had. Yeah.
We have
For
Border
sure.
Break, which is that was a JP only mech game, free to play, that came out like 2 years ago, but no, not specifically Gundam or Zoids for that matter.
Yep. What do we want more out of NGS for the future? Like events, PvP, PvE? What are some things that we would like to see outside of what we've already seen? So we'll start with Sharpie. What do you want to see?
I would very much so like to see a robust PvP system that's not challenge mode. I feel like one of the awesome things inside of this game is that you can build your weapon set to be whatever you want, and not being able to necessarily use that against other players, I feel like kind of puts you in a weird point, even if it's just a damage based on type of thing, like whoever can kill this thing first wins type of thing. That'd be cool. That'd be really fun and not as competitive in a super toxic way, I feel, while still keeping the vibe of PSO2's whole thing, which is we are all arcs fighting together to defeat the Darkers, or whatever form they are, and the gameplay ways that requires players to basically play around their mechanics. So it would show who is mechanically the best, who has the best gear, and still keep in line of being a very friendly way to compete and play the game. I was kind of disappointed with the PvP inside of the game at first.
Yep.
And I will also add, I really hope they completely and totally remove AIS from the game. I did not spend all of this time building up all of my gear and customizing my character to get inside of a huge mech that I have no control over whatsoever.
Fair.
What control as in customization?
Yeah.
No. So like, and I can't level up. It's just a base level DPSer.
Yeah.
You know, it's very frustrating. Like, I'm doing the same DPS as everyone else in my class. What's the point of me playing right now?
So PvE VP? Is that
no PvP?
PvP.
I said
okay.
Player versus player. Yeah, PvP.
Because
would
like
be really
that made
fun.
me think
so I
of
guess it would be PvE VP.
Yeah.
I guess, because you'd be playing against something else, but the idea is that you play against another person. And I think the reason why they choose not to do just PvP is because obviously inside of MMOs, when you can build gear, there are going to be people that just go in and they have to make it fair for everybody.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like the battle royale style that they have now in PSO2 is really inventive, especially when you consider at the time it was one of the only games doing that.
Yeah.
So that was a really inventive answer, but I would like to see something that allows a little bit more like the actual challenge miles thing, where it's like you have to get to this endpoint first. In order to get to the endpoint, you have to defeat this big bad. Which if you don't have the stuff to clear it, if you don't have the units to clear it, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
But instead of you starting with nothing, you start with the gear you've already made.
So like I was thinking like when I heard PvE is basically Gambit on Destiny, which is basically you have 2 teams.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've played Gambit. I played Destiny 2. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
Like I think there's so many more formats they have to choose from now that just were not available to them when they were first creating, because we have to remember that PSO2 came out so long ago, and it's been almost exclusively, and I should just say very exclusively catering to a Japanese audience, which has very specific things that they can do, cannot do, that their audience will retain. I think the American audience, specifically the United States of America audience, has a much wider acceptance rate of what we will take from our games in terms of PvP, and a lot more competition that we would be open to than standard Japanese players.
Yep, that's fair. Rem, what about you? What do you want to see in terms of events, like even seasonals, PvP, PvE?
Yeah, so just bridging out the PvP thing, I really do enjoy PvP in other games. And I think Final Fantasy XIV's, although it's not the most popular form of PvP, it's very team-oriented and everyone's usually really positive. I've never run into a toxic player there, surprisingly. Something like that could be good too, but I think class balancing is going to be important. That's something that WoW messed up a lot. If they're going to do that, like instead of like the units you've worked on or the weapon and bring that in to get an edge over someone, I think there should be balancing where it's only skill based and everyone's brought to a certain threshold, a certain level, and it's all equal than skill. But I guess PvE, there's something, if they're going for the more MMO route, which it seems to be what they're doing with NGS, they're really going to need, and Sega, please hear me out on this, if anything ever, dungeons and raids for the game to continue to survive. We need group content.
I was trying to hold that in.
What happened?
I sneezed.
It's so true.
Oh.
Bless you.
Thank you.
I was like, wait, what just happened?
I thought he was laughing because it's like they better do it.
They better do it.
I was like, dang, they better do it.
Yeah. We need that structure every week, something to look forward to. Like, even if we only get one piece of gear, but like a real loot table, not just the koi rare drop, like gamble lottery, whatever.
First of all, koi rare drop is the best thing inside of any video game ever. Okay, I log on exclusively to do koi dance.
Shake it.
Okay, don't test me now, because I learned the whole dance. I learned it. But what I'm saying, my point is, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you, Rem. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no worries. That was awesome.
I love that dance. That's why when I saw the anime, I was like, I have to play PSO2 again. Like it was so terrible because I was trying to be a productive human being, finish college, get a good job.
Yeah, all right.
And then the anime comes out and I'm like, man, I guess I'm just flunking out. That's so unfortunate. Ugh. Yeah. I guess the next amount of my student loans is going in here.
Feel that. And the last thing that a lot of MMOs fail to do right, and the only one I've ever seen who's done it right is for housing is Final Fantasy. And even then it's a little limited, but I really love the PQs in PSO2, but they're super limited. Everything's gridlocked. You can only have so many items in the space based off of those grids rather than the item count, which is kind of strange. I get that they didn't have a lot to work with back then. They did a great job with it, but in New Genesis, you can have whole rendered areas, whether they be private instances or a giant community hub for like customizable alliance halls, not just changing the backdrop. I'm saying like furniture items and just sitting there decorating and designing, because Sega will probably love this. That is a big time sink for a lot of people, and they have a lot of fun with it. Like in Final Fantasy, I still go over to go to cool nightclubs and see DJs play on Twitch and stuff, and it's a phenomenal experience that if we had a true housing system, whether it be personal or community, that would give us something to do. Like you go out into the field and you defeat a boss. Maybe it doesn't drop something you need for your class, but what if it drops that really cool ornament or giant monument for your quarters? Or you beat a boss and you get this giant statue of the boss, and if you beat it at a certain threshold, it's like a marker saying, hey, I did this. That would be really cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think player housing is always such a weird thing, right? So just a note on the squares that you can use, it was actually twice as bad on Universe. You literally had these massive plates that you could put things on, and that's it. But
Gosh.
I would also say, like, player housing is always weird. Like, I used to play Ultima Online back in the day, and you could place a house or castle or something anywhere on the map, and it just meant that the map just filled up with houses, and it was like really ugly.
Yeah.
I think the way Final Fantasy does it is actually really good because not only the room, you actually get the external as well. Um, but I will also note that people have looked at some of the graphics in game, and so in the central city, you've got like the shopping like row, and then you've got this tower at the end. It's like a sign in front of like an elevator that's got like a few floors, and one of them is personal quarters. So maybe it'll come back. They haven't confirmed it just yet, but if they did, I think it's going to be like kind of like Phantasy Star Universe. You walk to an elevator and you go up to your room, or maybe you can opt to type in a player's name and then go to their room or something. So yeah.
I like the way they did it in MapleStory. You know, I didn't like the fact you had to rent out a spot basically in town every single month in order to get it. That was kind of unfortunate, but I like the idea because inside the customization, they just had blocks and you could customize every single block with something else. You know,
Yeah.
that was really cool. That was very awesome. I did not necessarily like the rent system that they had. That was very BDO, you know?
Yeah.
Like BDO's entire housing section, I've noticed no one mentioned it for very good reason.
Yeah.
King,
Good video. Yes.
what about you? What content?
Two things. One, I would love to see more raids. I would love to see more raids whereas though we get certain buffs and debuffs applied to characters that make them just as difficult as CM3. Why? Because I do feel like in a good MMO there needs to be certain roles, and when everyone is just opted in for DPS, some people, even when they have that role, like as a tector or as a bouncer, you do have a role: crowd control, healing, buffing, debuffing, whatever. But when everyone goes DPS, the thing especially coming from Overwatch, everybody wants to be DPS even when they shouldn't, and it's okay to want to be DPS, but like I feel as though having those roles really does make the strategy a little bit more rewarding when it is completed. I'm a person who likes to go in with the plan, and if the plan doesn't work, yeah, I get a little bit frustrated, but we just turn back around, we make a new plan, we go back in. That's how these things work. That's what makes them so fun. And that's what honestly makes the game a little bit harder, you know. Two would be I would like to see whoa, it was in my head and then yes, I would like to see more PvE, and with the PvE I would like to see more challenging PvE as well. Now I already said like the raids and whatnot, but what I mean by challenging PvE is like now that we have cocoons, we have more than one way to go about doing quests. Not only are we just fighting enemies, but now we're completing whole courses, you know, completing and fighting enemies a little bit faster, trying to figure things out. Like I would have never known that you can actually do the ground pound and then hold your dash and immediately go into another dash and keep your momentum going just to get through the swift rush thing that we had to do. That one cocoon, we had to kill him in a certain amount of time. There was a way to actually get through that. You can solo it extremely fast. And I just think like there's like this new platforming thing that we can do. We can take advantage of turning PSO into not only a MMO but platformer as well. We can really push the speed run community as well with these cocoons. Like there's a lot of things that can happen by taking advantage of what they have now. You know, you now have an open world game that also offers instance based runs as well. So there's a lot of different communities that you can touch depending on how you decide to run your game or how you decide to design those cocoons, those levels. And we can always see more cocoons. You know, it's a free to play game with DLC ahead of us. We can always see new cocoons come that may be a different challenge. So that's something I would like to see.
I want to see them double down on the VR stuff of cocoons and maybe bring back like stuff from past games. So you go to a cocoon and look, it's Forest from Phantasy Star Online 1. Or maybe like Universe, you get to go on linear line or something, or take on some of the old bosses. I think that'd be a good way to bring them back and maybe refresh them. And even collaborations, being able to teleport to Final Fantasy 14's kind of aesthetic and take on Odin or something like that, I think would work really well. But yeah, I want dungeon content, and it seems like we might be getting it, but we're not too sure. We're gonna wait for more information. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything we had covered. for the
Yeah.
podcast now, so we should probably wrap up. We're at like an hour and a half at this point as well. We'll start with where we can find our guests online. Ram, where can we find you online in terms of content and even social media?
Yeah, so I'm Remalytics on like all platforms, so Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. It's really just me here on Discord too. Again, it's from 9678 if anyone ever needs me. I'm willing to help and volunteer with anything. I love helping people, and I love just seeing the community bond, which I think is really important moving forward, especially in NGS. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I only ever put one video on YouTube, but I'm working on that moving forward. So I'm really excited. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, not a problem. And Sharpie, where can we find you around the place?
I am at DaPurpleSharpie, so that's at DaPurpleSharpie on all platforms. I primarily post content on Twitch and TikTok, and I highly recommend everybody check out my web series on YouTube called Training Partners, which talks about 3 girls all played by me, who basically live together and all are gamers of different types that just go through life and have different shenanigans.
Oh yeah, that sounds interesting to check out. And XingKazma, is XingKazma everywhere?
Yep, XingKazma everywhere. Twitch, YouTube. No, OnlyFans. Hey, hello.
Hey man, like
I
said
was
no
doing
disrespect.
a family-friendly
OnlyFans.
stream.
OnlyFans.
isn't
OnlyFans? Oh,
What are
okay,
you
my
talking
bad. Yeah, I
about?
got an account on OnlyFans too. Yeah, my
You
bad.
dirty people, you.
only Kaz?
Oh yeah, OnlyCats. You know, actually, funny enough, there is actually a PSO2 OnlyFans where we just took a bunch of memey funny photos together in tier 1, and it's nothing like over the top or anything. We didn't do anything, 18 and up. We just took a bunch of really funny photos. It was like right when PSO2 started back in episode 3. It's the whole thing. It's hilarious. You gotta see the pictures. It's hilarious.
I'm really sorry, but if I don't say this, I'll literally be turning in every single comedy credit I have. Have you made a website called OnlyKaz?
Oh.
Why?
Why or why not?
Why not? Make your OnlyFans. Go to a website that says OnlyKaz, where it's only you.
I'm calling the cops. I'm walking away.
You can find me around the places Anamana AU, but you can find this podcast on all major platforms. Live stream archives are on YouTube. Thanks to you for making the time to chat with us today. It has been amazing. I'm Anamana's XingKazma. We'll catch you next week. Thank you, everyone. Actually, Kaz has a way of signing us off.
Yeah. So at the end of every stream, guys, we say, until next time, and may your guiding light shine. Will you be ready for that?
Yep. Go. 3, 2.
Until next time.
Oh wait, sorry. We're gonna do it.
Yeah, everyone else do it. Oh wait, was
Yeah.
I just gonna do it?
You didn't specify it was all of us.
All right, let's go.
Everybody
Let's go. All
Let's
right.
go, girls.
3, 2, 1. Until next time.
Until next time.
And
may
may
your
your guiding
guiding
light
light
shine.
Shine and play Skullgirls.
See you later.